Hello, and welcome to the Rainbow Club, a place for LGBTQ+ people to find their love, support, and validation. This week, I'm joined by my very special guest, Angel Roelofs, as they take us on a journey through their own self-discovery of their gender and sexual identity. Please be warned that this podcast contains references to self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and discussions on gender dysphoria. Hello there, and welcome to the Rainbow Club, this new podcast from myself, Nathan Major, and I'm being joined by my very special first guest, my lovely friend, Angel Roelofs. Say hello, Angel.
Hello, Angel. Yeah, we're carrying
Hey,
that on over here.
we remembered the routine from our
Yeah.
other show. Yes. For those that don't know, Angel was my co-host on my film podcast, the Major Film Reviews podcast, and I'm very much thankful that they have agreed to join me on the first episode of this new podcasting venture. So, just for clarity of purpose, Angel, do you want to start off by letting us know how you identify?
How do I identify? Wibbly wobbly gender wender at the moment. It's therapy has been interesting, and it's still I can't find the right words at the moment because people need labels to categorize you, whereas I'm just like, I am a barely functioning human, but I'm now a semi-functioning human. I've
Well, that's
upgraded.
a step in the right direction.
So that's one way I can't say it, identify as. Sexuality is still pretty much just panromantic, asexual.
A
Gender
grey
is
area.
just
Yeah.
gender is just not female. I just yeah.
So what you're telling me is that you're a grey area.
It's a bit more colourful than grey.
Yeah. Well, yes.
I am the entire
The whole
colour.
rainbow.
Yeah, I am the entire colour wheel.
At any one time, you can be any one colour.
Yeah, pretty much.
And isn't that the sort of appeal of being queer? Is the joy of being under a multiple rainbow?
Yeah. I'm just thinking it's like, I guess I'm just more holographic. I appear grey, but when I'm in the light, it's just like, ooh, shiny colours. I'm holographic.
But just to clarify, you do fall under the trans/non-binary umbrella, correct?
Yes, definitely trans. Just I am not cis. That's for certain. I am not cis. Still transitioning. It's just the word of my gender identity is just it just not exactly gender fluid, not exactly much of anything, but not in a bad way.
Well,
no, it doesn't make sense. This is why I'm in therapy. It doesn't make sense. But it is whatever it is, kind of thing.
The world is a strange place, and it extends to identity.
Yeah.
We'll cover your transitional period sort of later on in the podcast, but I think what will be a nice start is sort of take us back to little Angel. At, at, at what point did little Angel realize that they were different to the people that surrounded them?
Oh God, that was very early. Um, how deep and dark can we get?
As deep and dark as you are comfortable to get.
Okay. This is one of those things where it's like brace yourself. So trigger
Mhm.
warnings for those that may need it. Um, Suicide is about to get mentioned.
Okay.
Apologies. So my first overdose was when I was 4 years old.
Right.
Yeah. So as a very, very young child, I knew that there was something intensely wrong with me. There isn't. I'm just neurodivergent and queer as fuck.
Hmm.
But, religious trauma and other childhood trauma, it's, yeah, I just knew from a very, very early age that something was definitely wrong with me.
Hmm.
Again, there isn't. Um, and yeah, from 4, I was nearly 5, things were just like, no, I'm the problem. I need to be cured. I'm an abomination. I'm a curse. I'm the one that's causing everything to be completely and utterly wrong, and just make everything better for everyone else. I should go.
Really? Like
Yeah,
nearly five. That's
yeah, yeah. So that explains a lot going forward. And then add religious trauma to that, and it's just
yeah. So the
oof.
yeah
Mm,
the religious trauma is an interesting topic because I've also got a guest coming on within the next few episodes who's also got something in that area to discuss. So, would you like to elaborate on the mention of religious trauma? What sort of branch of the religious tree were you being oppressed by?
yeah, though there's many a branches that they like to smack you with.
Yes, definitely.
So in terms of sexuality, there was always the thing of being celibate. You had to
Mhm.
be celibate to be pure, to be
Mhm.
worthy. God deems you worthy if you're celibate and you do a whole laundry list of things. And it's like when you actually read the Bible, there's 11 very clear rules. And no. Um, so the thing of the asexuality, I thought that was just me being pure kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, this is how God designed me. I'm able to, like, resist the urge of sexual desires and things. And then in my 20s, it was just like, no, I just don't want to be touched. Don't touch me.
Which is a perfectly valid feeling to have,
Yeah. It's like,
especially nowadays, right?
which, yeah, yes. Whew. Um, so there was that thing of, keeping yourself pure and clean and
Mhm.
worthy, and just not wanting to be perceived because, you know, women specifically in
Yeah.
this patriarchal part of society and religion, and this is a very specific brand,
Mhm.
just to clarify. It's just, you had to, do certain rules. You had to wear, dress a certain way because too much sin is absolutely disgusting. You're um influenced by the demon Jezebel, which is like, okay, right, I'm possessed now. Um, which came later on. I was due for an exorcism. The only thing that stopped me from getting an exorcism was that I didn't have a valid passport to go
Really?
to the church. That yeah,
Oh.
because there was this special church. Well, there was this church that specialized in the exorcism of dragons and demons. And it's just the
Right?
thing of, if I'm possessed by a dragon of all things, hi, hello, what's your name? What horde would you like?
That that sounds cool as fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
Being possessed by
Of
a dragon sounds more like a positive than a negative, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And the whole possession thing played a part in, childhood, because it's the thing of, you could so easily fall out of favor with God.
Hmm.
You could just be possessed
I'm guessing a lot of
easily.
this sort of the religious thing comes from your family too. So,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that the case?
My mum's a reverend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I never knew that. This is news to me.
Yeah, and on my dad's side, my great aunt is a Rosmini nun,
All
but
right. Okay.
she's pretty chill about things.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So so obviously you mentioned religious trauma, and
Mm,
it seems to be from my experience of talking to people that females get it a lot worse from that side. And of course, you were assigned female at birth.
mm, mm.
So, at what point did you start to recognise sort of gender norms and start pushing back against them?
Pretty early on. Um, because I remember being quite a young child, maybe about 6, and I asked my mum, we were in the kitchen, I was just like, Mum, why hasn't my penis grown yet? And my mum just completely and utterly dismissed it. And apparently that's something that a lot of people ask when they're young. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
AFAB people ask when they're young. And I'm like, do we really? Is that really a thing that happens a lot, or is that just a thing that happens a lot to people that have come to this therapist? A therapist said that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, is that just something that you've been told because it's an issue that you've come across with your patients a lot? That is something that, people that seek therapy deal with. Is that a universal, not a universal, but like, but yeah, is that like a large thing with a lot of people, or is it a large thing of a group of people that access a service?
Mm-hmm. It is. It's definitely something that I've heard sort of anecdotes about before.
Mm,
Because a lot of a lot of times it's termed as being a like a man trapped in a woman's body, if you like, which is sort of
mm,
inaccurate because a lot of the sort of stories that I hear myself tend to be that they always knew they were like in your case, you've probably always known that you were assigned the wrong gender at birth. So it's not necessarily that
mm.
that there was a male trapped within a female. Is that you've always known you were a male. You just had the wrong parts that was what most
Mm.
people perceive as the wrong parts for a male.
See that the latter part, yeah. It wasn't that I knew I was a boy, because I don't, I'm not, but it's like physically, my physical body should have been masculine.
Mm-hmm.
That this is where it's the whole gender smender wibbly wobbly. Mhm. And it's just physically, I was just expecting to just have a penis.
Yeah.
Where did that genitalia go? And then there's like gender expression, gender identity, and the sort of, what does my body look like? What's it supposed to look like? Because growing up with toys is usually a big question. It was just like I was allowed to play with anything. I had action, um, what they're called, GI Joes, Action
Uh,
Man, but I
yeah.
also had like Disney princes and princesses. I also had
Right.
a Take That doll. I had Mark Owen, and he was one of my favorites. I just loved how he had like the little sort of like choker necklace,
Mhm.
and Legos, cars. just a different mix of things, which is pretty much me. I am
That's
a different mix of things.
so it's surprisingly progressive then, going from the background that you've mentioned that you were allowed to
Yeah.
play with all these different toys.
Yeah. Yeah. Mixed signals. A lot of mixed
Yeah,
signals. It's like
a
you
lot of
can be
mixed signals and
whatever you
prophecy.
can be, just not that.
Yeah. Um.
These, like, being gay is a sin. It's a crime against God. It's an abomination. But you know, we're all sinners, and Jesus forgives us all. But you're gonna go to hell. But you can be redeemed. Oh, okay. What? No wonder I'm still confused.
So you mentioned that you noticed the sort of gender
Yeah.
norms and differences when you were younger. Was there a point in your sort of teenage years or anything at that point when you started rebelling against these things, or when you started sort of acting differently so as to not fit in?
I had a tomboy phase. I say phase. I say that very, very loosely. Um, and I felt the
Hello there. Sorry for the interruption to the ongoing podcast. It was at this moment during our conversation when my printer decided it wanted to print something, even though I hadn't asked it to and did want it to. And that's the noise you were hearing in the background during the last few seconds to the last minute of our conversation. So we're going to jump right back into it with Angel describing their experiences as a tomboy as a teenager. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conversation without any interruptions, hopefully.
So anyway, yes, you
yeah.
were saying your tomboy phase.
Yeah, it was one of those things of like that's when I was more sort of comfortable in what I was wearing,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't doing well mentally. And then mentally I got worse and I entered my goth mosher phase, and I never really left that because I still love the aesthetic. I
Yeah.
am still a goth bat, and it's just I just have Tom Hardy in my head where it's like I was raised in the darkness, like. But yeah, just yeah, I just really like the sort of like the baggier the clothing, the better,
Mm-hmm.
but make it goth.
Was that was
That's
the
when
baggy
we
clothing a sort of deliberate thing to hide any outwards notions of your gender of your appearance of gender, I should
I
say?
think subconsciously it was because it was just a bit more physical freedom. I think it's also a neurodivergent thing of I don't like anything tight,
Mm-hmm.
but also I kind of do. It depends on the texture.
Mm-hmm.
But usually it's like baggy clothing, more comfortable, I can hide, I can
Mm-hmm.
cocoon. And it's a thing of, yeah, it is also a thing of, I don't want to be perceived, don't perceive me, I am just a void. I
So
just exist.
the
Mm.
the talk about the difficulties you had with your family and your identity. What's that relationship like now? How 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 do they receive your transness and your queerness?
I still confuse my mum, which is like, I literally just told you, to, like, and she always pulls that, oh, you confuse me,
Mm-hmm.
when she's constantly misgendering me and dead naming me, and I'm like, I'd really appreciate it if you could just like they them Angel, like you helped me come up with that name. My mum actually helped me like pick Angel, so
I
it's like
mean, that sort of makes sense when you take into account that she's a reverend, that she would pick the name Angel.
yeah, 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 and it's, it's
I
sad
kind of like
vibes, sad vibes.
I like the sort of the stories behind how some trans people pick their names. So,
Hmm.
do you have any sort of interesting stories about how you arrived at Angel?
That was sort of teenage years. That was like a nickname,
Mhm.
and because that name is an angel name.
Mhm.
I was named after an angel, so it was just
Mhm.
like, okay, I was named after an angel, so let's just have Angel. And then, it's different things. People are just like, oh, you named after Buffy the Vampire. It's just like, excuse me, Spike, Team Spike. I am still very much Team Spike. So
If
no,
you'd
I
have
did
made
not
that
name
reference,
myself after that vampire. Thank you.
if you'd
No.
have made that reference a year ago, I wouldn't have any idea what you were talking about. But Connor watches Buffy a lot, so I understand that reference now.
Okay, but are you Team Spike?
I'm not really team at anyone. I don't really pay attention, to be fair. Um, I
See,
like
the
Spike.
correct answer here, there is a correct answer. The correct answer is Team Giles.
Well, yeah, because it's Anthony Head. Am I
Right,
right?
right. You gotta love him. Like this, that is the right answer. Oh my goodness. We went on a names, right?
Yes,
Um,
names.
but there was also a thing of I always felt like growing up that I should have had an older brother,
Mhm.
and he had a specific name.
Mhm.
So I was just like, okay, I'm yeah, because it's Luciano. So I
Mhm.
was like, yeah, I want that name, but I kind of just neutralized it to Luciani,
Mhm.
and I was just like, okay, then I'm going to be him, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So I am my own big brother.
Do you have any siblings at all, or are you an only child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those like, how do I explain this? So, biologically, there's my two older sisters
Mhm.
with my mum and my well, oldest sister, different dad.
Mhm.
Um, so there's Francesca, me, and then on my dad's side, I have a younger sister,
Mhm.
different mum.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, you didn't necessarily grow up around boys and men. It was an all sort of female house by the sounds of it.
It
Apart from your
was
dad when he was around, I suppose.
hmm, hmm. It was a predominantly female household. It was
Mhm.
pretty much me and my sister raising each other.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I'm being disrespectful to my mum, but it's also the thing of she had her own things going on. Like,
Mhm.
so yeah, it was just me and my oldest sister raising each other. My older sister was living in Italy.
Mhm.
Um, and then with mum being a reverend, there was like a few sort of kids in the community she sort of like adopted.
Mhm.
So I do have two other sisters. So it's like they're my adopted sisters. And when people are just like, oh well, it's not the same, I'm just like, I will fight you. I will fight you. They
So,
are my sisters. Don't come for me. Um,
so what's your relationship like with your sisters surrounding your gender identity and your um, sexual identity?
um, well, my sister in Italy is quite protective, and
Mhm.
she's she's just on board with everything, and she's like, okay, this is my brother, and like his name is this. Um, Funnily enough, my cousins on that side, who I've not directly spoken to in years. I mean,
Mhm.
there's the Panini, but there's also a language barrier.
Mhm.
Um, it turns out that they're very much on board as well, to the point where my dad didn't actually know anything about me because we hadn't spoken in like 5 years at that point. It was family lunch, and I got mentioned because his wife's an absolute shithead, homophobic, and just. Ugh.
There's always one.
There's always one, and he had to marry her.
Well,
you know how I
yeah.
mentioned the nun? That's pretty chill.
Yeah.
She does not like the wife. She said things, and I was just like, "You're a nun. Are you allowed to have those opinions?" Anyways, where's the wine? Let's get cracking. So this bitch, nobody likes her. Absolutely nobody likes her. So yeah, I got mentioned in passing, and Dad didn't know anything about anything, which is just Dad, anyways. And an argument arose, and at one point, my sister kind of just snapped and was just like, "I think you mean your son," and she corrected pronouns and just got really angry with my dad. My dad's like, "What?" And my cousin's like, "Yes, your son." So even my cousins are like defending me against my dad, and I'm like, I'm not even in the same, like, I'm on an island where we're supposed to be on the same continent, but like we haven't we have I was going to say an ocean, but it's a sea. We have a sea between us, several mountains. And my cousin is like tag teaming with my sister and being like, "No, you're dead naming him. You're misgendering him. How dare you?" And apparently my dad was just like too stunned to speak. I'm like, "Oh, so that's how my dad found out I'm trans now."
Right.
Oh, by my sister and my cousin tag teaming to defend me.
I can imagine that was quite an awkward lunch.
Their lunches are always awkward. This one was just spicy.
Aside from the sort of religious differences that you mentioned, you said that some of your family are Italian. It sounds like on your dad's side. So, is there any sort of cultural difference there, as well as the religious differences on the other side?
Well, the religious differences not that different, because the British side is supposed to be a bit more relaxed and like, eh. The Italian side is meant to be very, very strict Catholic.
Yeah.
And like, because there's still a lot of hate crime and hate speech and a lot of oppression towards the LGBTQI plus society. We're a society now. Community. That's the word I'm looking for.
You do English good.
An attempt has been made. And yeah, it's not generally, it's like socially on a whole, with like equal rights and everything, it's not entirely accepted. There's still a lot of people, getting the rights, human rights, equal rights. Okay. A lot of people do get physically attacked, physically abused. It's not a good place as yet. Things are moving forward. Then there's a couple of political parties that are like, no, there's no place in our society for people like these. And, a lot of us are sitting back here going, sorry, but there's a few emperors, Roman emperors, and, Roman Greco deities that would say you're completely and utterly wrong. So, what?
Of course.
So there's, we have a
they
very
would never
brief
admit that though. So
because we turned to Christianity, we learnt the error of our ways kind of vibe.
Yeah. I suppose it doesn't help that Italy's a very sort of heavily Catholic country, isn't it?
Very heavily, very heavily. Yeah.
It's a lot like Ireland in that respect, in that it was a lot slower in upgrading rights of specifically women and queer people.
Yeah, yeah.
As I would imagine that Italy was fairly similar and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
the fact that that still happens there doesn't really surprise me all that much. He mentioned the political parties, and I think they sort of exist everywhere.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily an Italy problem, because I know there's a lot
No.
of problems surrounding that in France as well, because I've got a French guest coming on in the next episode who I'm sure will elaborate more on that. But I know that it's sort of, it's not rampant in Europe, I would say, because I think there's a lot of places in Europe that are a lot more liberal, places like Germany and the Netherlands and Belgium and places like that. But it is definitely present there.
Yeah, because I was looking into transitioning either in Italy. Italy is just like a no.
Yeah.
And then transitioning in the Netherlands, the process there is a bit more invasive.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, it's a lot more accepting, more liberal. And the process for transitioning, the questions, because here you need like um you have to jump through so many hoops, talk to God knows how many different people, ask permission of, hey, I'm trans, is this okay? Am I transing right? But over in the Netherlands, they kind of deep dive. They ask questions about your sex life, including how you masturbate, what you masturbate to.
Right.
Yeah, very, very invasive. And it's like, what does that have to do with any of it?
And it's got like quite a blind spot for asexuals too, because like
Yeah.
that might not be a thing at all for you. I mean, not to make any assumptions, but it's entirely possible that there exists someone out there who doesn't like to masturbate at all.
It's just, why that just reading about that. But it's got to a point at the moment in the past few years where some specialists, for lack of better words, because glitching, they don't go that in depth in the Netherlands anymore. So it's like, okay, so that's changing. Great. And then in Italy, it's the thing of you can transition. So like there is services available. It's just safety, personal safety, just trying to be trans out in the open, in the wild. Not entirely the safest options, but it also depends where in the country you are. I think if I moved in with my sister, I should be okay.
I suppose that'll also depend on what
Yeah.
part of Italy too, because I'm
Yeah.
sure there are more liberal parts and
Yeah.
more conservative parts.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that just depends on what community you're in. And again, which part of Italy you're in. I think with how things are with where my sister lives, I should be okay. It seems, in the great grand scheme of things, safe enough. But it's the thing of, if I wanted to live like in Rome, or if I wanted to live in Milan, Milan is one of those places where it is quite metropolitan, and it's nice and pretty and everything, but there's different, like London, like you're not gonna just walk into Croydon at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And
It's one city, but there are many different parts to the city.
right. And it's like there's, using Croydon as an example, it's just from stories that my friend who lived there, grew up there, has told me, and it's kind of like how I resonate with certain areas of Hull, where it's like I do not want to ever live in that particular area of Hull ever again because childhood trauma. High school was rough. Do not make me go there again. And it's
So
like
you
that everywhere, unfortunately.
yeah.
And it's
So
just,
you mentioned you were sort of a like a tomboy as a teenager and that, and you briefly mentioned school there. So what was your experiences at school? Did you have any idea what your sexuality was, and that your gender identity might be different to everyone else's, or were you still on a learning curve at that point?
still on a learning curve. This is the thing of was it cis compet, where it's like cis normative heterosexual, that's the norms, that's what God desires, kind of thing. And that's societal pressure, and the thing of, I'm attracted to men, but I didn't quite realize that I was also attracted to girls, because there's the thing of the religious thing of, oh, that's just Satan trying to tempt me away from Jesus. Like the thing of looking at a girl and be like, she's really, really pretty. Oh, really like to hold her hand. And it's just like, no, that's just being overly friendly. No, you gay dumbass. No. Oh, I wonder what it's like to kiss them. No, you gay dumbass.
So
It's just one of those things of, it was painfully obvious, but I was so incredibly oblivious. And just like, no, these feelings are wrong. They're very unchristian, and just no.
I imagine there's still a lot of that religious programming going on in your head that's making you think this, by the sounds of it.
I'm more aware of it, whereas now I'm just like, it is what it is. Whatever. I'm not gonna fight it anymore. I'm too exhausted to fight myself. I should be friends with myself. And it's just...
So, moving past your sort of school days and into your adulthood, was there a sort of turning point where you took control of, you sort of took more initiative, if you like, and started on the path to where you are now?
Sort of mid to late 20s. I am what's referred to as a late bloomer, where it's just talking to different people with different experiences. University, first time round, was great for that, where it's just like, oh, wait, so that is an actual thing. Like, yes, you can actually be attracted to women. That is actually allowed. You personally are allowed to do that. It's not just the thing that other people can have. You are allowed a taste of that pie if you wish. Wait, that's a double. That's a bit of an innuendo.
That's a great innuendo.
There's an innuendo there. And then it's the thing of, okay, so sexual attraction, like, because with having boyfriends, they always wanted to go to a particular, they always wanted sex, and I'm just like, not quite ready for that yet. Am I ever going to be ready? With one of my relationships, 23 turning 24, it was one of those moments of, fuck it, just do it, just go there. And it's just like, okay, well, that was an experience, I guess. And it's not that it wasn't physically enjoyable, but it's also a thing of, I'd rather bake.
I'd rather bake. That's brilliant.
I have other things that I have more of a desire to do. It's one of those things of people that have listened to the podcast before, you know that I am absolutely enamored with BTS. And it's the
yeah.
thing of you could pick any BTS member and do whatever you want with them. What would you do? And usually the conversation, usually I say usually, like there's the thing of, oh, okay, let's make this sexual. I genuinely am like, oh my god, the museums we could visit.
So
There's an
given
art
given the
installation. Let's go.
so given the choice between having sex with a BTS member and baking with a BTS member, you would probably rather bake with them then, I'm guessing.
My brain went straight to two members where it's just like, get us in the kitchen now. Whereas I feel like society on a whole, generally, the idea is bedroom. I'm like, okay, I have a list of ingredients in my head. I have several recipes. Let me bake you tiramisu and teach you how to make a proper carbonara because you do not put cream in carbonara. Sorry, that's my latest thing
Oh,
with TikTok.
yeah.
Everybody's like, creamy carbonara. I'm like, you don't put cream. No, that's not. Whatever it is, it's delicious. It looks amazing. I want a piece of it, but it's not a carbonara.
So
That translates to my
yeah.
sexuality as well. It's just like, ideally, I'd like a piece of it, but just like, don't touch me.
So you're attracted to carbonaras, is what we should take away from this.
I would rather have carbonara than sex. Yes.
Getting us back on track again. How did all of this affect your relationships?
Oh. Well, I've yet to actually have a relationship with a woman because that part of my identity just, I realized that sort of around mid to late 20s, where it's like, no, the way that I feel about women is actually stronger than the way that I feel about men. What the fuck? Um, I just haven't acted on anything because stress, depression, panini. Well, I have acted on it.
What?
Sorry, my
What?
brain was just like, excuse me, how dare you forget about these two? Like, oh.
How were your relationships in your sort of early to mid 20s while you were still figuring things out?
It was just dating and sort of like being in short-term relationships because the sex thing always came up and I was just like, I'm not ready. It's just like, okay, I'm I can wait for you, and then a few weeks later it's like, yeah, it's not you, it's me, it's just not working out. Like, oh, all right then, bye.
Were there
I
ever
mean, a bit
any
more.
were there ever any relationships who knew that you were trans?
No, since that part of my um sort of revelation, that was when I was 27. Because it's the thing of, okay, why do I feel the way that I feel about my body, the way that I sound, the way that I look, the way that I physically feel? It just, eh. And then talking with a few friends that are trans, and I was just explaining how I was feeling because, um, I had one therapist that was like, "Oh, all women feel that way," because this links into my endometriosis. Uh, the amount of dysphoria that I get
Yeah,
with
I can imagine.
that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was basically showering at the very least twice a day because I physically felt like I had a layer of grime on me. I felt physically unclean. And like you've just been like you slayed a very good, heavy, sweaty session at the gym,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of went outside and it's like really, really dusty, so you've just got like a layer of grime, and then you're like, okay, I need to do the gardening, and then you go for a shower. That
Mhm.
kind of physical, I feel physically dirty, which
Mhm.
may have been like a psychosomatic thing of, with the previous mentioned trauma of, oh, cycles, dirty. Um, that scene from Carrie, where the
Mhm.
mum's just like, bleh. um, yeah, just talking about that experience with a few of my trans friend, and they're just sort of like nodding, like, you may want to do a bit more research into something called like gender dysphoria,
Mhm.
or just dysphoria in general, because that sounds a lot like a thing. So they didn't push anything. They weren't like, "Oh my God, you're trans." It was just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, so research this thing because there might just be something that could help you that you could take away from it." And then I'm reading up more and more, and I'm like, "Oh, oh, that's not just a demon possession falling from grace. This is an actual, real thing I'm experiencing."
Was that a sort of light bulb moment for you then? Like,
Yeah,
this makes sense now.
yeah, yeah. And I'm still having like pull moments where it's like, oh, okay. Um, the therapist that I have at the moment, just sort of discussing everything that I feel towards gender is more like, is it possible that you're just not allowing yourself to be gender fluid? I'm like, uh. It's also the thing of like a therapist actually who admits she doesn't fully understand um the sort of subject, I
Mhm.
guess, for lack of better words. And it's the thing where it's like, okay, well, is it possible you're just not allowing yourself this? Like, oh, okay, maybe. So that's why, the whole gender, I don't really know at the moment, because it's the thing of, am I, and I'm not allowing myself, am I not giving myself permission to be who I am, because that's a part of my history, because a lot
Mhm.
of different things have said that I'm not allowed to be a certain way, act a certain way, dress a certain way. So it's just still figuring that out.
I mean, it can take people a lot of time to finally be comfortable within
Yeah,
their own body.
yeah,
So it just, I don't think there's ever a time where it's sort of too late for you to realize something about
no,
yourself. Like, there's never really a cut-off point where
no,
you would be too old to realize that
yeah.
you were trans, for instance, or too late to realize that you were wrong in this certain way of thinking and that you were really this
Mm.
thing.
There
And
is always room for growth.
yeah, and like, you're a mystery to yourself from the off, really.
Yeah,
Cause,
just the constant messaging of, it didn't matter what I did. Sorry, it didn't matter what I did. It was never going to be enough to other people.
uh
That was a major issue early on. Other people were dictating what I could and couldn't do, could or couldn't be, and I had to sort of live by their rules. But there's conflicting rules because different people have different opinions.
It
But then
sounds like, sorry, go on.
yeah, certain people are just a lot louder about what you can and can't do.
hmm
And when there's different people with different views, it's going to cause a lot of confusion, because it's a thing of like, okay, who do I listen to? The answer is yourself.
I, it's like I said it in my introductory episode. I spent so much time more preoccupied with making other people happy than making myself happy, and it sounds like you were in a similar boat for a long time.
Because it's the thing of how could I be of service to other people?
Yeah, which again can sort of link back to the religious upbringing, to be of service, to be there for other people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your transition then.
Mm.
So you said that your transition started at 27, was it, you said?
Yeah.
So around 5 years ago.
Yeah.
How has your transition been so far?
Oh my god, I feel like I'm a circus act having to jump through hoops, begging for permission to be trans, and I'm just done with it. I'm exhausted. I'm just fuck it all, burn it to the ground. Yeah, so the waiting lists feel like they're never fucking ending.
Yeah.
Because I was like the GP that referred me. No, I asked one GP to refer me, and she was very aggressive about it. Where it's like, oh well, they're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to have surgery, and they're gonna make you be a man. And I was like, well, at that time, I just wanted gender specific therapy to like talk through what I was feeling about my gender, because the therapist that I had at that time was just dismissive. Just the whole thing of like, oh, all women feel this way about their bodies. I'm like, no, that's not good.
That's a very poor therapist that would make that sort of
Yeah,
generalization.
the stuff that I was talking about was like self mutilation kind of area, self harming, and not good. Not good. It's not healthy at all.
Speaking of waiting lists, I remember like before the pandemic, the waiting
Yep.
list was at about 2 years. So what effect on your well ish?
For what? Let's be specific. For what?
I think that 2 year waiting list was for the initial gender clinic referral.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was about 2 years for the initial, from referral to the initial first meeting was about 2 years. This is where I recognize I'm getting so angry because it's more ridiculous. It's worse. Waiting lists have gotten worse. There's like an extra 1 to 2 years added.
Yeah, my next question was actually going to be how has the pandemic affected that, but you've just answered it for me. Because all treatments across the NHS have been affected, but it always seems like it's mental health services and gender services and sexual health services that are pushed to the back of the queue for the longer waiting lists.
Yeah. Because like I mentioned with my endometriosis, I had to go for a regular. My smear tests are about every year now, and that got pushed back.
Yeah.
So I had to wait an extra year. So I went 2 whole years without a smear test, and just like, oh my god, what if this? It's not just endometriosis. There's another condition, and I was just like, what if this gets worse? Because it was like borderline precancerous, and in my head I'm freaking out. Like, what if this turns cancerous while I'm waiting for my next smear test? And like, not good, not good. So everything is just getting pushed back. So things that were borderline not great are just really not great. Just across the board.
So has your personal transition been affected by the pandemic then? I'm imagining it has, because I don't think anyone's escaped unscathed.
It's like snakes and ladders. Because of where I was at, because I'd already had my initial appointments anyways. last year, June. No, was it June? Yeah, last year June. Because everything kind of went online, we were able to do online meetings. So I had a online video call with my endocrinologist, who I see for my endometriosis.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, so we're now officially at the stage in your transition where this is where we'd be discussing hormone treatment.
Mhm.
But because of my endometriosis and where I'm at, I was already on hormone blockers and I was about 1.5 years on testosterone.
Yeah.
And that was because of my endometriosis. Whereas if it was with the gender clinic, I'd have been waiting 4 years to get to that point.
Wow. So,
And I'm currently incredibly bitter and angry because I had my top surgery consultation last October,
Mhm.
and the surgeon did not ask me about my medical history. He didn't ask for me to confirm anything. I was just like, okay, so you're severely overweight. You need to lose weight. And I'm like, I'm a wheelchair user. My joints dislocate. Not fully, thank the gods for that. And, just listing off, that's the point where I listed off my health conditions. Like, you're asking me to lose weight, including an eating disorder. Like, um, the fuck do you think you're doing?
and
Tried to
also,
respectfully put my foot down, and it's like, okay, what we're gonna do is you're gonna talk to the head surgeon who I was supposed to see. I was supposed to see a different surgeon. I didn't get referred to that one. I got referred to a third one that I didn't even know existed. Um, so with the gender clinic, for whatever reason, they didn't refer me to the surgeon that I requested. So I don't know whether that's just one of those things of, oh, you just slipped through the net, which is an excuse people get a lot through so many different services, not just the gender clinic, but just across the board.
there's big holes in them nets.
To the point where whales could swim through them. They're
So,
not nets, they're just string.
the broken nets.
Yeah. So I respectfully put my foot down.
Mhm. And
I was just like, we're gonna take my disabilities and health conditions into consideration. It's like, okay, I'll have a meeting with like the head surgeon. I'm like, yes, you will, good sir. Um, and I had a follow-up appointment last month. A few days before that appointment was due, it got cancelled.
Mhm.
So I am yet again stuck in gender clinic limbo because the letter I got said that they'll be in touch to reschedule, but it's the thing of, is that just an automatic letter? Has it been outright cancelled? And then there's the issue of, because nobody talks to each other, nobody knows anything, who do I contact to find out? Who is it that I'm supposed to call to find out why it got cancelled and if I am actually getting rescheduled?
Mhm.
But then there's the issue of the gender clinic that I'm under. They very rarely answer their phone pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Good luck trying to get a response from an email.
Yeah.
Just we're already
So,
thin replying to emails. You had to chase them up. But in context, I think the UK has about 5 NHS gender clinics.
mhm.
That's the UK, not England. The UK.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 in England, 1 in Scotland, 1 in Wales. I think.
I mean, the fact that there's only one for the entirety of Scotland,
Yeah.
let alone that there's only 3 for England, which is
That I'm
it's
aware
the
of.
bigger. Yeah.
I really hope there's more, but there's supposed to be more because the government Fucking government. They did this promise that they were gonna do better. They're always promising to do better, and yet, no, they'd rather just have parties. Sorry, business meetings with cheese and wine.
Wasn't the wasn't the required transition period extended by law recently as well? Because you have to live for so long as a gender another gender before you can start your treatment and stuff, and that was extended
Sort
recently,
of.
wasn't it?
Sort of. They expect you to live in your preferred gender for at least 1 year to 2 years. It depends
Mhm.
on what it is you're looking at. I think with your passport, I think the I think just want to reiterate, I think passport has to be 2 years. I
Mhm.
think. Um, Driving license, they don't give a shit. You want to change your gender marker? There is no gender mark. There isn't one.
Mhm.
Sorry, my brain just shouted at me, so I'm shouting back. Yeah, on my driving license, I noticed that they don't do titles or gender at all on driving license. It's just your
Mhm.
name and date of birth.
So
They don't care. They don't
how
care anyway. Either way. But passport, yeah, there's mixed signals with whether you definitely need a gender recognition certificate, which is a 5-year process in and of itself, I think. Um, Somewhere around 5 years. But then transitioning is 5 years. So it's like, okay, to change your passport is like, what, 10 years then? Like,
yeah.
when do these 5 years occur? Is it like simultaneous? Do they overlap? Is it like after each other? What's the process? And different people come back with different experiences.
That
So,
uh, that that just about covers my next question, because I was going to ask
ah,
if you were if you were at the stage of your transition where where you the gender had changed on your passport, but by the sounds of it, that would be a no.
no, because my gender hasn't exactly changed on me. I mean, it has, but like in terms of medical transition, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still waiting for surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a case of they'd rather surgery is preferred, but it's not mandatory.
Compulsory. Yeah.
Compulsory, thank you. Because there are people out there that are trans and are just like, yes, I am trans. This is my body. This is my trans body.
Yeah.
Eh,
There are
That is
some
that.
people who
Yeah,
sort of who will want top surgery or bottom surgery or neither or both,
yeah,
and all are equally as trans as the other.
exactly. You don't need to have surgery to be trans. There's
I
also the
mean,
thing of you don't even need to have dysphoria to be trans. It's the
no.
thing of
Yeah.
like you're trans, then you are trans.
So, at what point in your transition are you at the moment then?
Exhaustion.
Isn't that a constant underlying though?
But this is fueled by rage. Because I'm waiting for surgery and it's just waiting.
You're
Constant
on your
waiting.
hormones though, right?
Yes. And that's because of my endometriosis. So thank you, universe, for fucking that up in a successful way, I guess.
How
Um,
how, how are the hormones helping?
consolidation prize, consolation prize. What's the
Consolation
word?
prize. Yeah.
That's the one. Thank you. So yeah, otherwise I would have been on testosterone and hormone blockers last year.
How are the hormones helping, or if
So
they are at all?
much. They are. Like, when I had the hormone blockers, everything physically just calmed down.
Uh-huh.
Like, one of my issues was with my joints dislocating, subluxing. Um, because of where my endometriosis predominantly is along the ligaments on my hips and my spine. So once that inflammation calmed down, I wasn't having such intense issues with my hips and my lower back.
Uh-huh.
Mentally, things just calmed down. I wasn't anywhere near as, I don't want to say psychotic, because let's be nice to ourselves. Um, I'm speaking plural because my therapist does the thing of, okay, what would you say to your 3-year-old? How would you speak to your 3-year-old? So it's me and my 3-year-old, like my 3-year-old me. So I've started talking in plural. Is this even English? So I went on tangents. So yeah, with the hormone blockers, physically things calm down. Mentally, things calm down. Dysphoria calmed down. And then with the testosterone, once things started changing, I only have like 2 mirrors in my house.
Uh-huh.
3, sorry, I forget. I have 3. There's one in my bedroom it's not accessible. It's one of those that lights up. It's a unicorn shape and it lights up, and I love it, but I don't look into it because I don't like seeing my reflection. And there's partly spiritual things because mirrors are portals demons can access and enter your realm through mirrors. Like, oh, again with a demon possession. But there's also the thing of I just don't like seeing myself because I don't like seeing what's reflected. But recently, as in the past year or so, after testosterone actually taking effect, face shape changing, I have a beard now. I catch my reflection. I'm like, oh shit, I like who I'm seeing. Hi, you handsome thing, you. And I don't hate it. I don't hate me, which is an absolute 180. So, I have been looking at getting more mirrors. I want one in the living room.
I was amazed when we started the phone call because we haven't actually spoke.
Yeah.
We haven't called each other in like a year, just over.
Yeah, and I just answered, just assuming you know it was me.
And the amazing difference in the deepness of your voice. I had no idea that it was you on the other side of the phone. I thought that I had like your old number and you'd given your phone away to some other guy because it just didn't sound like how I remembered you sounding.
Yeah. Because like for one of my friend's birthday, I just did like one of those like doorstep gift drop-offs. And because we've just been talking through text, we haven't sent voice notes or anything. So I just sort of like knocked on her door, took several steps back, gift bag was on the doorstep. She opened the door, she's like, hi, oh my god, I've missed you, how are you doing? And I answered, she's like, fucking hell. I'm like, you alright? She's like, your voice. I'm like, no. To me, I still kind of sound like it's a bit deeper, but to me, it's like I still sound feminine. I don't sound like a man to me.
I would liken the
But there's-
change to a teenage boy going through puberty.
I'll take it. And then with one of my friends, Riley, they've sent voice notes, and it was one of those things where it's just like, you know what, I can't be bothered to type because it's going to be a long response. So I sent a voice note back that was like, got 5 minutes or something, and the response back was, "Fucking hell! I thought you gave your phone to a friend. What the fuck happened to your voice?" I'm like, my ego thanks you. Please continue. So
So
it's just like
that's
hearing my voice back. I'm like, I actually sound. I like how I sound. I don't feel icky about hearing my voice back. Like with my mum as well, when she likes to call um through Facebook Messenger, and it always echoes, and I hate it. Mostly because as soon as I say something, it distracts me, and it's like I can't keep track. It's just I'm the ADHD, the neurodivergency. It's just like we do not vibe together. This is not working for me. I can't. Um, and it's also the thing of I don't like hearing like basically a woman's voice. Like I'm saying it, but I'm hearing a woman. I'm like, I'm not a woman. No. What is happening? And it gets very conflicty and icky, for lack of better words. That's like my
it's
motto, isn't it?
it's great to hear that you're a lot more positive
Yeah,
now
yeah.
about your transition, because I
I feel
remember meeting you at university, and I think we were both in the same boat in that we didn't really like have anyone to talk to when we first met,
mm, mm,
so we sort of gravitated towards each other. But it's sort of coming through in the conversation how much more you're happy that you're going in the right direction, and obviously, as you said, your therapy is going well, which is amazing too.
yeah,
And you're at a positive point in your transition where you're starting to feel better about
yeah,
yourself, and that's amazing to hear.
yeah, yeah. It's at that point where, like, beginning transition, it's the thing of I have to have top surgery because if I don't have top surgery, I am not going to be able to cope. I cannot stand the dysphoria. Like, it was crippling, absolutely crippling. Whereas now, through therapy, it's one of those things of if I don't get top surgery, first off, I will be contacting a lawyer because fuck you. Rage and spite and pettiness. But also the thing of if it has to take another year to get to where I need to be, where I deserve to be,
Mhm.
then I will keep being fueled by rage and pettiness. But I will get there. It is not the end of the world.
So,
If it is, I'll
at,
burn it down.
at this
So,
stage in your sort of journey of sort of coming to terms with who you are, would you say that you're at a point where you're happier than you were when you first started the process of transitioning? And
yeah.
if you could, what would you tell 27-year-old Angel who's just about to start their transition? What would you tell them?
Um, Buckle up, Buttercup. This is about to get heavy. Um, also the thing of the way I'm feeling is absolutely valid. There is reason for it, but like it's I know telling myself at that age it's not the end of the world. It's just not good words. So I'd have to choose my words carefully because it's there's also the thing of the thing of it does get better just enraged me so fucking much and it still does, but it's just trying
Yeah.
to figure out a way of right now things are intensely shit, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you do walk towards it. There will be a day where you're in therapy doing those fucking questionnaires that we don't stop
Oh
disliking.
God, the questionnaires.
Yeah.
Endless
And
questionnaires.
this my last session, my last 2 3 sessions where it's like, have you had suicidal ideations? And basically it's just like, do you want to die? And my answers have been actually no. Let's do this, bitch. We're living. fuck anyone that tries to get in my way.
Well, I suppose
I'm still very
that's
angry and aggressive, but like it's shifted. The focus has redirected, and it's just like there will be a day where you will genuinely answer, "No, I do not want to die, and I am going to live. Fuck you."
And
You'll
I
check.
suppose that's as positive a conclusion as we can hope for.
Yeah, I am very much determined to live by my rules, the way that I see fit, for my own happiness, and that is not an egotistical thing. That is not a selfish thing. It is me putting on my oxygen mask while the plane is in turmoil. Like, you can't help anyone else unless you help yourself first.
Yeah. Well,
It's not a thing of to be of service to other people. It's just like be of service to yourself first and foremost. Foremost?
well, we'll make that our. We'll make that. We'll make that. That's our lesson to learn for the listeners
Oh
of the
no,
podcast.
it's caught on. I was gonna say it's like it's contagious. The babbling
Be
is
of,
contagious.
be of service to yourself.
Yeah.
So thank you, Angel, for joining me. It's been wonderful to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we can have this conversation again in a few years, and you'll be a little bit further down the line on that road to eventually finding what it is that you want in life. But for now, it's been a great chat, and thanks for joining me and being so open and honest about your experiences. And I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks again for
Thanks,
having me.
Sue.
Take
Thank
care.
you.